That's your cue, Shepard.
I know. Okay, let me find my place. You don't need to rush me.
Zoink.
Look at that. Second one in and attitude's already there.
Okay.
That's a good sign.
Hey everybody, welcome to Lions Pride Tavern podcast number 66. Tonight we find out how we did in this weekend's continuing raid of Antorus the Burning Throne. And LoveSweetCharity is still our guest healer while Tapachino is out for the holidays. But before all that, let's start off with introductions. I'm your host, Stafford. I play a Dwarven Beastmaster Hunter in the awesome game World of Warcraft. Next up is JobUi.
Hi, I'm JobUi. I play a Worgen Fire Mage.
Well, you're going to be.
Well, I've been playing it for and I've done it in a couple fights here and there, but I'm making the official switch for next week's raid. I'll be coming in as Fire and playing it all week.
This last week you were still Frost.
Yeah, for most of it, I was still kind of pushing to a couple things with Fire, but Fire's where I want it to be now, and it's pulling ahead, I think. So, and I've been waiting for that moment to switch back, and I think now's the time.
Nice. And no Lorelei tonight. She has what everybody's got in the entire U.S., the flu. So her voice is like she doesn't have one. So she said, I don't think I'll show up. So we go to Epistle.
Yeah, as a keener, I got the flu a couple weeks ago, ahead of the curve. But I'm Epistle. I play a Draenei Protection Pally.
I don't know if that part of being ahead of the curve is a good thing, though.
I think what he was saying was that he beat the flu on heroic. Is what he did.
Actually, I did it during a holiday of all things, and it was 5 days long. It was epic.
Oh, yeah.
It was epic.
Maybe mythic level flu there.
Yeah,
mythic
it was.
level
Nerd
flu.
talk.
Don't want to do that again. It was just no, not good.
And Charity.
Hi, I play a Draenei Resto Shaman.
How's everybody doing tonight?
Fantabulous.
Very good. Although I'm just realizing, Charity, are going to have to work out how we say Draenei because I think we're not on the same page on that one.
Well, I guess you're just going to have to listen to me say it and like it.
Yeah,
Well,
I
will
say
enjoy
Draenei.
that.
I say Draenei. I don't know.
As long as you don't say Drano, I guess we're okay.
Drano.
All right. Just so we got that comparison. Epistle. Say Draenei.
Draenei.
Charity.
Draenei.
Okay. Fans, you let us know which is correct. Put in the comments Epistle or Charity.
I honestly think that Epistle's correct, but whatever.
I have no idea.
I've actually heard people say it both ways, and I'm not sure there is a definitive correct way, but I haven't really done my research.
Yeah, we could be putting the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable. I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
Just maybe.
You know.
Yeah, hard to say. Oh, awesome. So you guys all ready for the holidays? A few more shopping days left.
I'm so ready for them to be done. I work in retail, and it's been crazy filling orders for ship to store.
Oh, I can't imagine.
Yeah, see, I'm liking it still. I mean, I got the 3 kids here, and they're really big on Christmas, as most kids are here in the States, and we're just having a good time with the decorating and the singing, and got a few cool things planned for this Christmas that I think are going to be fun and a little exciting.
My kids are late teens, and I'm just at the point now where I've talked them into not doing a big gift exchange until after Christmas, when all the sales here come on.
Oh. Yeah, we're not doing that.
You know, and I love the holidays. I love the season. It's just getting through this bump at work. And once it's actually Christmas, it's so nice.
Sure. I mean, this
Yeah.
is the first year our youngest is really gonna even have a chance of really remembering or being able to participate. Like last year, well, last year she was too young to really even be able to open a present on her own, and this year she's totally gonna be able to
It's
handle
gonna be
that.
so good. You gotta tape
Yeah.
our first present opening.
Oh, it's gonna be great.
Oh, I can't wait, Joe. You're gonna be so excited.
Yeah.
So you guys have met Zanfan. He's one of the guys that's in our guild. He's raided with us a little bit. We've been playing a new game. He's part of my gaming group, and it's called Wylands, and it's his wife's birthday today, which we record on Sunday. And so she wanted to play Christmas music all day. So all day long that we've been playing, he's been singing Christmas music in the background. And it's just, it's so funny because he'll be doing something and all of a sudden he'll just break in, you know, ba-ra-ba-ba-ba.
Nice.
Nice.
And one of the guys started streaming. He's like, okay, enough with the singing. I'm going to get copyright errors. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. Because you've heard him sing. I don't think there's anything copyrighted about that. He's a good guy. He's from Texas, though. So. All right.
How does that affect one singing? I'm just not clear on that as Canadian.
I don't know that it does.
Everything's bigger in Texas, and he's got that real radio macho guy voice.
Now, I don't want to offend any of our American listeners, but if you compare the size of the province that I live in Canada to the size of the state of Texas, we're bigger.
Ooh, all right.
Them's fighting words.
They could be.
Well,
although I do have one little trivia note for Texas. The only thing I really know, and this is when I was researching alternative energies and such. Texas is the only state that if we cut everybody off from getting power from outside their state, Texas would be independent.
Yeah, which is sort of one of their things, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah, they've always wanted to succeed.
Now, I was actually at Expo 86 years ago, and there was the Alberta display. A few people from Texas came up, and this one guy would refuse to believe what he was being told, that we actually produce more oil, more barrels of oil in Alberta. We actually produce more heads of cattle, and we have more grain than Texas. And this guy walked out going, nope, it's all lies, don't believe it.
Because he's from Texas.
Yep.
Well, they do have those 15-gallon hats. They're not, they're not 10-gallon.
I will grant
extra
their hats are bigger than Albertans' hats. That's very true, yes.
Well, before we have Texans coming unglued, we better move on.
I'm ducking here now that I've gone and
It's
put
not
my
as
foot in it.
bad as the whole cows are happier in California. Have you seen the cows in California?
God.
No, they're not happier. I promise
I don't
you.
know. We have more cows than people here in South Dakota. I can say that much.
Yeah, and it's probably pastures and fields of cows, not all in this little caged up little thing.
Well, all I know is I remember one, I think it was a Johnny Carson, and he had a newspaper clipping that he always reads, those funny ones. And it came from a gal that said, we need to stop slaughtering cattle and just buy it at the grocery store like everybody else. I know.
Wow.
You just kind of go, yeah, that's what you say, right? Charity, do it again.
Wow.
But some people, that's what they think. Anyway, Jobui, cap us off. How did we do? Because I'm excited about this.
Yeah, we did great this week. We finished 7 of the 11 bosses this week, making it all the way through. We got a single pull on Vera Mathras, but we got through Kingaroth. First night, we did Garathi Worldbreaker, Fellhounds of Sargeras, and Antoran High Command, Portal Keeper Hezbel, and Ionar the Lifebinder. Then we came back on Saturday, and we did Iminar the Soul Hunter and Kingaroth, and we made a single pull on the Veramathras.
Is that what we're calling it?
Veramathras? That's what
No,
his name
a
is.
single pull.
Well, that's what I mean. It was a really fast. We got there and we did a pull on it, and it was pretty much over before it started.
And Tank died.
Yeah, tanks messed up like right away somehow, and one of them died, and then things of course just fell apart from there. But you know, we'll get that down. It's not that bad of a fight once we just get it all down. Everybody knows exactly what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, just a mechanic, and the tanks haven't figured it out yet.
Right.
Darn tanks.
We spent most of the night on Saturday on Kingaroth. But on the first night, I mean, we one-shotted all the way through until we got to ENR the Lifebinder, and that was 2 pulls. So we did 1 pull, and then we noticed something that was different than we had seen in some of the videos and other explanations we'd seen on like Wowhead, as far as the timing of things coming out of the gates. And once we noticed that, we made an adjustment, and everybody pulled it together, and we finished the fight. It was almost an unexpected win. Like we were doing the fight, and then suddenly the fight's over. And
right.
The best part was, how did we do that?
Yeah, well,
I don't know that we know.
No, we do. I mean, it's the way ENR attacks the ship that's going over every so often on a regular interval, and then at a certain point in the fight, if you've kept the monsters from killing ENR, then ENR will kill the ship, and then you have won the fight. So that's we just did it long enough, and she killed the ship, and we won the fight. But it's a weird fight, right? Because it's that tower defense thing.
Easy tier boss, I guess.
Well, kind of. I mean, everybody did a good job on that second pull is what happened there.
There was a lot of communication going out that we didn't even explain, and just suddenly everybody's like, okay, we'll go here. Okay, that means we'll go here. We did very good.
Yeah, that was really fun.
I'm going to credit that entirely to JoBui. Let's give him a round of applause.
Yay!
Because he's the one that said, I am not explaining these fights. You guys are going to go watch the videos. And if you don't watch the videos, you're not going to know what's going on.
Right.
And it worked. I think a lot of people went out and watched as many as they could.
I think everybody
I do know that Mac's wife from the Goblin Goldcast, she raids with us, and she was going to raid with us Saturday, but she hadn't got around to watching the videos. So she whispered me and backed out.
Oh, okay.
Because she's like, I'm really sorry, I haven't watched the videos. I really think that it's best that I just stay out, and you guys continue. Because you don't know, because Saturday we were down two of our major healers, Phaendra and Tapachino both had other things to do, and they didn't make it. And we were scrambling for healers. We didn't, we almost didn't have enough.
We did a pretty good job.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah,
absolutely.
We had to make some adjustments to the lineup, but the 2 bosses that we were coming up against, Imnar and Kingrath, are both, or Kingaroth, my mistake there. They're both like heavy heal intensive fights. There's a lot of healing that goes out on those 2 fights, and so, but I thought the healers did great. We had a change, if I remember right, it was Unholy Knight, who told us a change on the Imnar, or on the Kingaroth fight that they were doing different, which is they were going after the Destructors each time the Destructors came up, which we made that change, and everybody got on the same page. We went to all the Destructors and killed those first, and then it went down. It was great.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
absolutely.
Why don't you explain that one? So with that mechanic, explain the way we did it, and then changing it, what changed to make us be able to get that down?
Well, we started off with, and I didn't know exactly how well we would perform. It really depends on the DPS. We hadn't tried that boss, and our roster is usually very fluid. Some people show up, some people don't. We have a lot of regulars that show up every week, but it still fluctuates from week to week. So it's kind of hard to plan exactly how much DPS are we going to have. So my plan was to split the groups, because 2 mini bosses will appear at the same time at regular intervals throughout the fight, and it's either a Destructor or an Annihilator, and I forget what the third one's called, but it's one of 3 different types, I think. Anyway, so you basically they show up on 2 different platforms. There are 3 platforms on it, and they show up at one platform and then the other. On heroic, one shows up at all 3 platforms in every time they show up, which is going to be messy later. But so we tried splitting the group into 2 and attacking one platform and attacking the other platform simultaneously to try and kill both of the ads before they had a chance to get to the center. That didn't work out so well. Both the platforms managed to get their ads down to about 50% health, but people were also dying to other mechanics too, so we were starting to lose people right away. So people died to the beam and stuff, so there wasn't as much DPS as needed to be there. And that didn't work out so well. So we switched it to, okay, we're going to move as like one group and attack one of the big ads and then the other big ad. And we weren't really designating other than like we're going to go to this platform and kill that one and then go to that platform and kill that one. We weren't really deciding based on the type. So we tried that a little bit and we got further. We got further in the fight. We made some progress, but we still weren't quite getting it down. We still had people dying to the beam. People were dying to the balls going around. I think somebody fell off the platform.
Yeah, I think that was a mage, if I remember.
I think so.
Did he slow fall when that happened?
No. I think it was just an accidental step off
during
the
the
platform.
fight you did? You did?
Oh yeah.
You didn't hear him?
Yeah.
You know what's great though?
Yeah,
You know what's great? Today's.
Now. I thought you were picking on me.
No.
Today's getting deep, so I think it's going to be all about situational awareness. That's my bet. I placed my bet with
No, it's not. No, it's not about raid awareness, but but no, but it was, and then after we got to that point, we realized, okay, Unholy had mentioned that he said when in our group we're killing the destructors first because that mechanic seems to be, taking out more people than the other one. And that made it yeah. So we switched because the mechanic for the destructors is a purple circle that shows up on one player, and other players need to get inside that purple circle and help them soak the damage. If they don't, then that one player will pretty much die. So, and I think even if only 2 people get in there, they might both get toast, unless it happens to be a tank or something.
Healing's low too, right? If people's health is low when we're in a bad situation, and that was happening a lot in that fight.
Well, there's constant ticking damage that goes out, and throughout the whole fight too. So, I mean, it's hard to keep people topped up on that fight. And the other one, the other boss the other mini boss that pops up there does puts an orange circle around players that it's basically just a large orange circle that, like we've seen 1,000 times before, we take it to the edge of the platform or just away from other players. A little meteor comes down, hits you, does some damage, but it doesn't kill you or anything like that. So people just need to go off by themselves, maybe pop a little small personal, shield cooldown or something like that to mitigate some of the damage, and they're fine. They're good to go. Healers can handle that one a lot easier. So by killing the one that drops that puts the purple circle on people, the thing that people have to get together and absorb first, it meant we never had to deal with that mechanic when the ads started actually using their abilities, which isn't until they run into the center. Because while they're standing out on their platforms, they don't start using their abilities at that point. And that helped a lot. I mean, we beat the boss on the next pull when we did that. So it worked out great, in fact.
Well, yeah, but I really want to say, I think the reason we really got the boss down on that next pull is because it's Charity's favorite saying, sacrifice Stafford.
I knew it. I was gonna say
and
that.
I died right off the bat. So I started calling the fight, where the balls were coming, and when the big laser beam, because the laser beam hurts. It's just deadly. And there's no getting around that. I mean, I thought it went all the way around the room, but it only goes for like a quarter of the room.
Not even.
Yeah. It's a small section. Very often as a tank, I would just stand there and gauge, it's about a quarter turn away from me, and I wouldn't even have to move. I'd just stand there. But I think the Beam of Death, right, it's Shades of Trilliax. All these other damages are not good, but I think when people figured out the beam, and you were calling the beam out, and people were avoiding that beam, then we're good. Because I think that was the Beam of Death. Everything else is sort of increasing damage. And once we got that beam down, at least on normal, I think we'll clear it without any problem in future.
Well, my issue was, it was easier with you calling the beam because I had to zoom in enough to see the exact area that ball was coming through because they have so much room, you know. And then once you're doing that, then you're not looking and zooming out to see where that beam's gonna go. So it's that middle in between. So as soon as you called it, I could roll my mouse out and go, okay, where's that? Run away, or look up, run away, instead of looking around the outside. It made
Yeah.
it a lot easier. So
It
it
must
was
be
just a
tougher
good
for
heads up.
must be
Well,
tougher
I'm
for
chasing
healers, right?
people around trying to heal
Yeah,
them because
getting out
they're
of
all
range.
around that
Yeah.
circle.
Yeah, there's some
Yeah.
positioning funkiness we still have to get better on that one. It's a little
So,
too chaotic, I
while
think.
you're being chased, trying to dodge balls, and then you go, oh shoot, there's a beam in my face, let me run away. So it was
Yeah.
Well, and
very
you don't know which
helpful.
direction the beam's going either. It could go
No,
Well,
you
clockwise, it could go
don't.
counterclockwise.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was another change we made too. Was like I mean, at one point the beam came out, and I think it killed 5 people. It just wiped
Yeah.
5 people out in one go, and I was like, yeah, this is a wipe, right? But then we talked a little bit about it, where we talked, okay, the boss is going to face a direction, and once he faces that direction, he's about to cast his beam, and we'll try to call it out or whatever, but just get far away from the place that he's shooting it. Don't hang out anywhere near there. And then everybody was like really vacating that area when the boss would turn suddenly and point. Everybody was just scattering away from that. And I remember, like, right after we talked about that, the very next beam that came out, I looked over and there was literally nobody anywhere near where the beam was coming out. And I think Formir spoke up. He said, yeah, it targeted me. And then I used my disengage to get out of there. And everybody else had already booked it out of that area. So, yeah, I think everybody
Well,
got that down really well.
except for Fafford.
Or yeah,
Mm.
except for Fafford,
Mhm.
right? Yeah.
Well, at least he's not falling off platforms.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
That
see,
was
so what I
once,
did,
though.
I saw the beam, I saw his hand come out, and I was like, oh, I'm going to run counterclockwise. And as soon as I did, that's the direction the beam went.
Of course it was.
Yeah, right
You know,
on top of me. I was like, all right,
but speaking of the falling off the platform thing, which
again.
We seem to want to talk about.
when I did fall off the platform, and I was like in the midst of playing, I was like, oh, I fell off the platform, and then Mommy spoke up and she said, "Don't worry, you'll come back up." And I was like, oh, somebody else has stepped off the platform before me.
There's knowledge to be shared there.
She meant your body would come back.
Yeah, well, she knew that it would, because I mean, some fights you fall off a platform, you just fall, right? But she knew that if you fell off the platform, it was going to dump your body back up on the platform. So I was like, oh, I'm not alone here. Yeah, it was a really fun night. I think in general on the bosses, I think people are really getting a lot of the fights down pretty well. There weren't nearly as many mistakes made or anything like that. Portal Keeper, we made the change for when we move the flames over. I thought that worked out great.
Yeah, explain that one.
Well, during the fight at 90% health, the boss opens up the flame portal. You go into the flame portal area, and there are these little flames floating around in the back of the room there. And the first time we did it, I had players run over and grab a flame and take it across over to the shadow platform, which means you go back through the portal. The flame usually drops off you on the main platform. You pick it back up, and then you continue on to the shadow platform, and then you drop it either in the middle of the room or by the door or wherever it's been prescribed that you're going to drop it, and then you just leave it there. It's going to help later on in the fight. And so I was having players do it as we were arriving at that first fire platform. And I figured, well, we're already there. Have a couple players grab it. But then I was looking at some other strategies and stuff that other teams had used, and they were having players run it at a different time, so that those players that had gone up on the platform were available to kill the mini boss, the fire boss that's on the platform there. And so instead, I just said, okay, everybody who's going up there, just attack the mini boss, and then at like, I think it was at like 50% health or something like that, at a different amount, basically. I had myself and Arkenstone, who is a demon hunter, go up there because he's nice high mobility, grab those and take them over to the shadow area, which, I mean, it hurts our DPS, but who cares? Because, we have to stop DPSing. We're going to just run this errand. But it wasn't a pressure situation, where we were trying to down a little boss and do something else at the same time. And so it just allowed us to handle it like between platform phases, which was great.
I think it worked pretty well. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't see too much interruption.
No, nobody really noticed. I just called it out to Arkenstone. I said, okay, let's go get the fire. And he came over and we both went up to the platform, grabbed the fire, took it across. Everybody else was doing their thing. And we both went back into the fight and nobody else, had to deal with anything. And it was fairly quick.
I'm not sure anyone died on that one, did they?
Not that I recall.
Yeah, it seemed pretty smooth all the way. Like now that we got the down steps in the first few fights, I think we're going to be plowing through those very quickly, maybe even before break if we keep it moving.
Oh, I was just going to say, on that fight, another thing I'm doing on there is I'm trying to change up, who we're taking up to the platforms, because I want, like the different healers to get to experience going up on the platforms and other people to get different looks. Like this week, Tapachino was our designated healer that was going up on every platform. And I think we had Faye join up with Tapachino on the second and third platform, the Shadow and the Fell platform.
Yeah, I told her, I said, okay, Tap, this week you don't have to panic if everybody leaves. And she goes, I don't care, I'm going up with everybody.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a nice thing, being able to pass up the tasks around to different players and have different people get looks at stuff, rather than just them always be down on the main platform and not get to see those other little sections.
Yeah, because you go to Arkenstone, he said, all right, Arkenstone, you're going to do this. And he's like, I've never even seen it before.
I'm like, great, it's fine. It's
and
easy.
you'll do
it.
amazing. Yeah.
And he did fine. I was like, yeah, don't worry.
Yeah,
It'll be great.
Compared to the last raid, where everybody was having to do this on every fight, it seemed, I think it is good to keep people, challenged and taking those jobs and spreading them around.
Yeah, I also want to do that with our group because of the fluid dynamic of our roster. I want there to be like, a number of people who have done that mechanic before or have had a chance to look at it before. So if we come up with a week and there are players that aren't there, we've got players who've done it before. And
yeah, especially before we hit heroic too. We want to be going into that really comfortable.
Exactly.
Yep.
Which does make me wonder, when will we be ready for a first crack at a heroic boss?
Well, there's 11 bosses. We've got 7 of them down.
Mm-hmm.
We're working on the 8th one, so
we
that
got
only
4
leaves
more.
4. So, but it's always the 4 hardest bosses at the end. So
they're not necessarily.
No,
not necessarily.
Yeah, a few have been pushovers, right, that we ran into this week.
Well, they feel that way because everybody's prepared and they're geared. They're not necessarily pushover bosses.
Watching the videos, so they know exactly what's going to happen going in. We don't have to go through the first couple of wipes.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I did it. And like some people are like, "Oh, this is feeling really easy." It's feeling like everybody's really prepared, and that's what it's feeling like. And so but as we're going through it, people they know what they're supposed to do, and at times they're bringing new ideas to the table that are really helpful, which is great. So I mean we're rolling right through it. But I'm thinking it'll be a few more weeks probably, maybe 2-3 weeks or something like that, and I think we'll have normal all the way down through Argus. Whether we try the I don't want to try the heroics initially. What I would want to do really personally is continue to make runs through normal until we're downing most of normal on the first night. Like say we're getting through like 7 or 8 bosses on the first night and then doing the rest of the 4, and we have a little time left over to go hit a couple of heroic bosses at the tail end of our Saturday night raid. Because people are going to want that gear. That's 930 gear, 930 plus gear that's dropping out of this raid, and we're going to need it for heroic. So I think we should kind of keep farming normal for a little while after we down it, and just kind of farm it, and then start off doing a few bosses, and then make the transition to heroic.
Well, there's going to come that saturation point where every boss we go to, everybody's putting all their loot up for roll.
Oh yeah.
You know, and that's usually the point where I go, okay, if nobody's getting anything off of this, then we need to move forward.
And by that point, I think we will also have the dark passage runes, and we'll be able to skip bosses. So I think by that point we'll have those things where, okay, we're going to do the last 4 bosses, or maybe it's the last 5 bosses, however many it is. I'm not sure where we come in at when we use those runes. But we're going to do the last few bosses, and then we're going to go to heroic. You know, because and skip those first bosses that everybody's got most of what they need from already.
The other thing too is I don't mind spacing things out a little bit, knowing that the next content is going to be probably way off in the distance.
I imagine summertime. Probably for the next the expansion pack, probably coming out sometime in the summer.
So if no new content until then there's really not a huge rush to get through heroics.
Well, no, but I'm going to go ahead and go on the record right now and make this prediction that I think this will be the first raid that our group starts making mythic attempts before we move on to the next raid.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
That may well be true.
Yeah.
Well,
I think we would.
Did gain an awesome shaman healer. I mean,
that helps. It does.
Yeah.
Keeping us alive will be good. Yeah.
What's his name again?
burn.
Well,
Use some aloe vera.
I didn't stay alive in.
Did you want a flathead shovel or a spade shovel?
I know. Yeah, you didn't stay alive because when you die, we live. So.
Plus,
I sacrifice, everybody else wins.
Yeah,
yes,
you're a sacrifice.
the dwarf every time.
You're a sacrifice she's willing to make, but standing in the fire might be part of it.
It could have something to do with eating a beam. Maybe.
Eating a beam.
But I have to say that since we're 7 out of 11 bosses, I think we should all reward ourselves with a 7-Eleven Slurpee. What do you think?
We don't even have one of those where I live.
As long as it's not lemon lime, because everything in this damn raid is green until we got to the last boss. What is that, Veramathus?
No, Aranar the Lifebinder is.
Is that where it swithed?
Aranar the Lifebinder was like, that's red. All like platforms and green lush and stuff. That's the platformer one with all the jumping around.
Everything else was so green.
Yeah, I agree. And then I think it was Imanar the Soul Hunter is red. I think that area.
Yeah, okay, that's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah,
but I'm not going to go for I'm not going for a Slurpee though, because if I do that hypoglycemic shock, that would just do me in those things.
Yeah.
A smoothie?
A smoothie.
You know what? I will go to my local Transcend coffee merchant and get a latte. Latte. I like a latte, thank you.
Latte A.
Latte A?
Right.
I was just echoing your phraseology and biting, leaning into the stereotype that you all so cruelly seem to have for me.
Phraseology?
Okay, first of all, I would just like to go on the record and say that raid night, I stuck up for you. When they were all saying you were on Canadian time, I said, obviously there was something important. I'm sure he'll be on his way.
And you were quite right. It was an important dad thing, and I tended to my duties.
See, you're being a father.
Yeah, but that's
time
an
to
opportune time to make fun of people that we care about.
But at the same time, on this podcast, we talk about raid etiquette. And when we say it's a 5-minute timer to go take a break, that's not 10 minutes or 15 minutes. It's not, run to the grocery store and get a 7-Eleven Slurpee.
No, but there is, there are things that come up, obviously.
Oh, absolutely.
He had that, but we have occasionally had problems where like players are like, yeah, I'm gonna go to the bathroom and then I'm gonna go, make myself a sandwich and then eat the sandwich.
Yeah.
And then run the dogs out and then have a smoke and then come back or something. there's all these things. Like the list keeps getting longer and longer, and I'm like, man, I can barely squeeze in a couple of small errands, and I usually have like time to go to the
it's
bathroom
DPS,
and grab a drink.
It's totally
I mean-
DPS though. They're worst at it.
For guys, that's what the Mountain Dew bottle is for, right at your feet.
TMIT.
No, we're not even gonna. We're not gonna venture into the old EverQuest days when you couldn't leave the computer during the raid. No, that's days past.
I heard about those. Too funny. All right, so let's talk a little bit briefly about so far up to this point. Who's your favorite boss, JobUi?
It's kind of a tough one, but I had the most fun on, although it was short, Airnar the Lifebinder. I really like the flying around and kind of the going to different spots and just the very different, very different kind of boss fight. I think it's really cool that they're stepping outside of the box a little bit as far as what a boss fight is. And so I think right now that one's kind of it's my favorite for today. I don't know if it's going to be my favorite for the whole raid, but it is for today.
All right, fair enough. Epistle?
I'm debating because I like Portal Keeper. I enjoy the feel of that fight. It's really a sort of an A/B back and forth with sort of a zip out to an ad kind of fight, very much like Kingaroth, just mechanically, but it has a neat feel. I really enjoy that, and so that's kind of fun. Now I want to say council, but I think I want to say high command. That's what I really want to say.
Yeah,
so
Antorus high command.
Don't want to step on that landmine twice in a row. So yeah, I really enjoy the high command. Although because we've done it a couple times now, it's starting to seem familiar and getting into the groove, and so enjoying it, but maybe not as much.
Okay, all right. Charity?
You can't make fun of me because I don't remember the name of the boss, but the beam and ball boss, it was actually very exciting. It's very different. I like that boss right now. That was really fun.
Kingaroth.
Yep.
That one. Yeah, that was cool.
All right.
Even, I just like that there was so many different things going on, and that, I don't know, I guess it also might have been due to the fact that I felt a little more useful in that raid because we had less healers, so I could make or break things.
Yeah.
And there was so much going
fun.
on with healing. It felt like the things that I did actually helped,
You felt clutch. That's important.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, for some people, there got healing.
No.
You can't heal through the beam, dude.
Can't
you can't
heal through a beam.
Just like you can't heal through stepping off the edge either, really. So what about you, Stafford? What was your favorite so far?
I have to agree with you, JobUi. I really like that whole tower, 3 different levels. I didn't quite have the jumping thing down, so I'd always run to the little waterfall things that you step on, and then that takes you up or down. I did do it a couple of times, but then I was like, I can't click the button again to go down, so I'm flying down slowly. My DPS really suffered, but I just thought the whole fight was awesome to the point where I was like, all right, we still got this boss and everything's going on, and all of a sudden it was like over. I was like, what the heck happened?
Yeah. Well, it's only a 5-minute fight, right? So it's
short.
And it's really what it is. I mean, it's a 5-minute fight, win or lose, pretty much.
But it's a huge map for 5 minutes.
Oh yeah. And
Pretty.
It's pretty, and you're really active. You're going from place to place. I'm really looking forward to using fire on that one. Although I don't have as many good slows as I have with frost with fire. But I'll be able to hit them with a living bomb, and as they're marching along, then they'll spread the bomb around to each other, and I can attack on the run and stuff like that with fire, much more so than frost. So I'm really looking forward to that particular fight as fire for next week.
I know, it was funny because we did 2 polls in that boss, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's the first kind of flub up. Right before the second poll, Tapachino goes, how is it that people are flying and then all of a sudden right on the ground?
Right, she didn't know she could hit the button the second time. Well, I had told people to practice, like when we first got there, like to play with the button, like go fly around and land and stuff. And I had mentioned that you could click it a second time and land, but I don't think she quite figured it out at first. But once she did, then she was like, "Oh, that's cool," and
Yep.
it is. It's
Oh
pretty
yeah,
fun
definitely.
too.
It was very cool.
It
That's
doesn't.
what I
It's a
think. That
nice
was my
change.
favorite. Yeah.
It feels like you're gonna get like falling damage when you do the drop down to the
Oh
platform,
yeah,
though.
it does.
Because it really drops down fast. Like there's a part of me that I have to resist hitting my slow fall as I'm dropping down to the ground after doing that. But it's cool. I like that
It's
fight.
awesome. I feel like I'm on my demon hunter on my healer.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
And the
Maybe
wings
that's
are
why they did it.
dragonfly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Maybe that's why they did it, just to make it kind of, people don't do a demon hunter, they get a feel for it.
maybe.
We built the code, let's use it.
Oh, I know when Demon Hunters first came out, you couldn't turn left or right without running into a Demon Hunter. Now,
Yeah.
there's only a few hardcore people that are still Demon Hunters.
I don't know. I still play mine. I just don't. I don't play her all the time. But I still have my
My
demon
other
hunter.
main is a demon hunter.
All right, so what do I know? I'm just a hunter.
They're just a lot of fun, and I
Yeah.
think that's why they're just so movement. Something's always happening with them. That's, I think, why the rogue is so much fun right now too, because there's so much movement going on with them.
Yeah, I have to like actually when I'm on my demon hunter like doing world quests or something, I actually have to try and remind myself to pull my mount out because I find myself jumping and flying or jumping and coasting in the air from place to place. And I'm like, no, my mount's faster. Pull my mount out.
Nice. All right, guys. I think unless you've got something else you want to talk about, then I think we'll move on and we'll cue that music. It's time for Lorelei's Pet Battle Minute.
Hi, sorry about the missing segment tonight, but I'm channeling one of my inner pets, my frog. I've had laryngitis and no one wants to hear me that way. I hope to be back next week with no information on the new Mally Elemental pet. And I'll have to apologize. I'll have to so apologize.
I've never
I can't
asked
believe
you
you
to do
pronounced that
Lorelei's
correctly.
voice ever again.
He's so deep voiced.
I know,
tried.
right?
This is high pitch for me. It hurts.
This falsetto
Okay,
was.
back to my normal range.
Sorry, guys. We just had to do that. We got to make fun of people who aren't here. It's a thing. So, so next up is...
Getting Deeps with Jobui.
Hey, watch where you're pointing that thing. This week's Getting Deeps is all about making sure you know your targets, are targeting the right thing at the right time, and attacking your target or targets with the right kind of attacks. There are generally 3 different scenarios when it comes to DPS targets and the type of attack you should use. The first is single target, meaning you're attacking and damaging just one target at a time. This is useful when you only have one target or when you need to kill your targets one at a time. The second is cleave, which means you're primarily attacking one thing but have some kind of splash damage that will hurt other targets around it. This kind of targeting and attacking is useful when you have one strong target with a few smaller, weaker, and less consequential targets nearby that can be killed over time. The third is AoE, or Area of Effect. These are attacks that damage all the targets in the area at roughly an equal pace. AoE is useful at times when you have many targets that need to all be killed at roughly the same pace, and usually more quickly than cleave scenarios. Beyond those 3 basic target and attack strategies, don't forget to use your slows, stuns, and other crowd control, or CC abilities, when appropriate. Using these kinds of abilities at the right time can make a huge difference in some fights. So, make sure you know which targets are the most important at any given time, what kind of attacks you should be using on them, and whether or not using CC abilities would be a good idea. Until next time, keep getting those deeps.
And now for our real tanking address.
What's wrong with tanking? What's wrong with tanking? What's wrong with tanking in a dress? What's wrong with tanking? What's wrong with tanking? What's wrong with tanking in a dress?
This week's Come At Me, a Tanking Minute, we are going over some more of the basic tanking patterns that you will discover as you run through the new raid. I'll start with ANR tonight. It is, as we've been saying, a bit of chaos. Not tanking per se, but you want to get comfy with running around, understanding the zone, how it all works, know what the buttons do to fly and land. It will come in handy as you go along. Your most important task, though, as a tank, is to keep an eye out for that Fel-infused Destructor. We discovered that for us, with the gear that we had, between Darg and I, we could easily solo the mob without a healer, but it gets a little dicey toward the end, and so we called out to each other to help each other out and did a bit of a swap, sort of solve some of that problem. Could take some pressure off of healers if they need to be somewhere else during that part of the fight. So generally, a little bit of chaos. Keep an eye out for that Fel-infused Destructor, and lots of fun. Iminar. Now that one is a very simple mechanic. It's your basic tank swap mixed up with an AB location switch. So you'll want to start pretty much where the boss is, tank it there, back and forth tank swap. And then at, I think it's 66%, you run all the way across the minefield, dodging and trying not to hit stuff. Get to the other side, and it's more of the same, tank swap back and forth. If you're using Deadly Boss mods, then you don't have to worry about how many debuffs before the switch, because it changes just to keep you on your toes on that one. It's different for the first, second, and third phase of that fight. But basically, it's just a tank swap and AB back and forth. Make sure you get a map and view it before you get in there so you know where the location is going to be. But otherwise, easy peasy. Kingaroth. I would call that one chaos in a big donut. Really what you're doing is, if you heard my earlier podcast on tanking in a circle, this is that move. You start in one position facing the boss. When things get dropped on the ground, you sidestep a little bit back and forth to make sure you're avoiding things. It's a tank swap as well. You might want to soak some of the little floating circles going around. But that's pretty much it for phase one, using cooldowns when you're going to get a particularly big hit, which comes from time to time. So that's pretty much it from the tanking perspective, except phase two, you go and grab an ad with everyone else and kill that pretty quick. Make sure you and the other tank have decided which one you're going to pick up where. So generally, just dodging stuff. And of course, as we've talked about, the Beam of Death. As a tank, you're probably looking at the boss anyways. So when you see the cast coming that he's about to kill you with his nasty beam, the wise thing to do is to step out. Even as a tank, you're not going to survive more than about 2 seconds in that beam. And those are the basic tanking patterns. That's Come At Me, a Tanking Minute.
Yeah, but you guys get heals.
No, the healers are running around going, ah, at the time.
Running from balls.
Don't lie. We can hear you through the internet.
I'm pretty sure that Fafford needs to go out and get himself the Salty title so he can be Salty Fafford.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Okay. And then there is...
Where do you get the insane title from? Because that could be useful too.
Oh, I don't know where that comes from.
I have Lumberjack, I think.
Commando Jack.
Commando
Jack.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's it. Yeah. I like that one. Commando Jack Fafford. Anyway, and on to...
Baby, you got the heels. Now heal and don't die, 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 die. Heal and don't die, 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 die.
This week on Splash Into Heals, over healing. We all want to top the charts, but healing isn't about being the top of the charts. If you want to be a chart topper, you better go DPS, or damage over time. Healing is about keeping everyone alive and everyone doing their part to do that. Every class is better at some kind of healing. Paladins are better at large heals. Druids are better at high movement and HOTS, or heal over times. Shamans are best at AoE, area effect, healing, even more so when in groups and stacked. Priests are a little bit of everything, but a master of none. Of course, Some healing can't be helped. You always want padding and prep for large hits or lots of AoE damage, but you don't want to just flush your mana down the Kil'jaeden toilet. What we're talking about is padding your numbers, hotting up the entire raid, or using all your cooldowns for no reason, just so you can be the top of the charts. There is a good medium. Coordinating with your heal team to do these cooldowns at the correct times will help. This way, you can use your cooldowns at good times and not use them all at once to waste them. So when checking your heals, always check your overhealing to be sure that you're actually helping the raid and not just putting unneeded heals on people. To check these things out, use SCADA or Recount. Everyone has a preference. I recently switched to SCADA because I feel it gives more accurate reading even when raids get split up for fights. But they both do the job of showing you how well you're doing, including overhealing and what spells you and others are using. If you notice a healer is really good and they keep their overheals to a minimum, you can check their SCADA or Recount for what they're doing. As usual, I will have links on our Facebook page to these add-ons as well as my Splash into the Heals information. And that has been this week's My Splash into Heals.
And there's... It's WFN News, Warcraft Stafford News. The Neither Disruptor is up at the Broken Shores with Epic Hunter and Reinforced Rains. Weekly event is Arena Skirmish? Whatever that is. WoW tokens, not much change. 166 this week. They were 167 last week in the States. Festival of Winter Veil begins Saturday.
Yay!
That happens to be Lorelei's favorite time of the year, and she's not here to share it. But I'm sure we'll hear all about it on the next podcast.
I know I'll be hearing something.
Nothing being released this week as far as Antorus the Burning Throne. They give it 2 weeks. Next week they have Raid Finder Wing 2 opening up, but hey, that's next week. So
I thought the next wing was opening. It's not?
No, that opened up this last Tuesday.
Yeah,
and then they skip a week. And then
they're going every 2 weeks now. I think they're trying to spread it out more.
Yeah.
I didn't know they were doing that.
Well, have you ever done a Raid Finder raid?
Well, yeah. I do Raid Finder raids, like when I need to complete my champion mission stuff. I don't want to wait till raid night.
I mean, they're nothing more than tank and spanks.
Well, yeah.
Nobody does the mechanics.
Plus,
you can always tell the ones that do, though.
Yeah,
because
and it's
they
really
actually
fun
move.
to go. It's really fun to go as a strong DPS, though, because like you and the other strong DPS who happens to be queued up for the same LFR can try and beat each other for the first place at the top of the chart.
Everybody's.
I've tanked them where I've topped the charts.
Well, yeah.
The
It's
tank
so
is the number one
sad.
DPS.
And then when I out heal everybody too, it's like, oh.
Wait,
tanked
you guys
and
just stay
topped
back.
the charts.
Let me take care of this, will you?
I tanked and topped the charts in a in a normal dungeon with my mage not too long ago.
Oh boy.
That was fun, actually. I really enjoyed it. I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't pull that thing. I'm like, screw it. Nothing's killing me. But kill.
I like going back to the old raids with my mage. I mean, like the level 15 raid or dungeon. I just walk through it and hit one spell.
Oh yeah.
Explosive blast.
Frost
Explosive
Nova,
blast.
Yeah, that's especially fun. I found with if you're wearing the legendary helm for a fire mage and you blow a dragon's breath, like when there's like a whole lot of ads in front of you, you just walk up to him and go, and then everything falls down dead.
I just can have your stuff.
I like running down all the way through the hallway, down the next hallway, and come back, and everybody's following you, and you go one spell.
Yeah, well, you know, another thing with Fire Mage, because their shield actually does damage, you can just put on your shield and run through, and on those really low level ones, things will just run up to you and bounce off dead.
Die.
Ooh.
The fun of it.
Yeah. When I get really pissed off at a boss that we're working on in a raid, I just think, in 3 expansions, I'm coming and I'm just shooting you in the face.
You know how many fell reavers I've killed?
Exactly. I was just going to go there.
Now, see, but I look at that like it's not, for me. It's not so much about vengeance as it's There's a mythic transmog that I'd really like to go get my hands on, so I've read a couple of expansions till I can go solo that action.
All right. Well, guys, we're going to call that an episode. I would like to thank Charm for all of her beautiful music. Please go visit her website and her YouTube channel. The links are in the description below. BenSound at bensound.com and Vincent Moretto for our tavern music. Thanks, everybody, for coming, and we'll see you all next week.
Okay,
See you
love
around.
you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, folks. See ya.
I kissed an orc and I liked it. The taste of his Bulgur chapstick. I kissed an orc just to try it. I hope my ally friends don't mind it. It felt so wrong, it felt so right. Don't mean I'm in love tonight.
As usual, I will have links on Facebook and I cannot get through one thing.
We don't know what you're talking about. We're perfect.
Yeah, but we're
Okay,
just,
I'm
you know,
almost
we just
done.
nail
Fafford
it
says
all
so.
the time.
Fafford just says he walks away though and comes back when we're done.
No, he sticks around now because he makes notes as to what time he needs to fix.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. As usual, I will have on Facebook page. Oh.
Yay! Blooper reel.
Okay.
Red leather, yellow leather.
Splat into heels.
Splat.
That's the Fafford
Rude.
approach. Splat into heels.
You're doing great. You're doing great.
Yes, you're fine. If you like this podcast, throw us a like and subscribe to our channel. And please, leave comments or questions below. Maybe we'll answer them on the air next podcast. We are hosted on Podomatic.com. Our website is Lionspridetavern.podomatic.com. Our podcast also airs on iTunes for Apple users, Google Play for Androids, and YouTube. Just search World of Warcraft Lions Pride Tavern podcast. See you next week, and thanks for listening.